Assalamualaikum everyone and welcome to Notes from Nurhdyhaz. I really hope that all of you have been keeping well and safe, insyaAllah. Welcome to another episode of Inspiration. So for today's Inspiration episode, I have Humairah with me on the podcast.
Hi, Assalamualaikum everyone. So I'm Humairah and I read books and review them for fun. And I also write poems and things. I'm also a teacher.
I think the reading books part is quite evident lah, as you can see in the background.
It's my personal collection of books. Yeah,
Beautiful.
and it's together with my husband. So this is our personal Wardah books in our house. I take a lot of inspiration from Pinterest. So you get your mood board and basically I want something that's cozy and yet it has this dark academia kind of like.
So insyaAllah today, I think I really want to learn more about what fuels your creativity as well as spirituality. You read books, you review them for fun, but I think for the most part, it's quite purposeful lah. When you do the reviews.
I mean, it's I say for fun because it's something that I do that's not a job, that I feel like it's something that it's a channel for me to express myself, that's not something that I get paid for. So it's naturally like a passion. Yeah, I've been doing it since I think when I was in my late or early 20s, and until today I still do it because I just like to share books that I like to read with everyone, and even those that are not so good, so that people can know or discern for themselves what kind of books they like. So because books is just like food to me, people have their own tastes. People can have different likes for different books, different genres. Not everyone likes the same thing.
Basically, we are given a selection or a plethora of things that we can read. And I think that is really helpful because when it comes to reading, sometimes we do struggle with finding something that we like to read. And I think those who want to explore reading in itself, when they can't find something that they like to read, it's kind of like a turn off. Okay, maybe reading is not for me, but sometimes you just need that good book.
Correct.
To read,
yeah, you need to find something that you're interested in. And that's something I tell my students as well. There's no such thing as I hate reading. I feel there must be something that piques your interest, and take that as something that you should try and find out more about. And so to find out more about it, you have to read about it, right? So it could be anything. So I think for me, there's no such thing as reading. To me, I believe everyone likes to read something that perhaps they have yet to find what is it that they like.
So speaking about reading, can we also acknowledge the part where you are also an author of your own book?
My own life.
You want to share a little bit more about that?
This book that I wrote was published back in 2019. So it's titled Homebound, and it's actually a collection of poems that I've written since I was, I think, early 20s or my late teen years, 18, 19. And then basically over the years, I wrote a few poems and collected them. And I think what pushed me to publish it eventually is when I visited Mecca and Medina for my Umrah trip. And then I just felt this sense of purposeful, me, kind of this sense of I feel like I've renewed my purpose and intention. And then I think when I visited one of the bookshops there, I saw this book of poems that was written about faith, about God, about spirituality, and I felt so connected to it. It resonated with me so much that I thought to myself, hey, I also have a collection of poems that I really wanted to, share with the world one day. So that was kind of what pushed me and what drove me to actually, publish that collection of poems. And so this collection of poems that I wrote were centered, as in the themes for these poems were centered around coping with grief, and then centered around the transience of life, basically finding love of God, basically what I've reflected upon all my experiences so far and what I learned from it. So I think that was the theme that tied these poems together. And I realized that, when I was at Mecca and Medina, I felt that sense of it's very metaphorical to me that I'm back here after my first trip, which was when I was 4 or 5 years old, I think. And then I felt the whole I'm bound, homebound, because I felt this is where I am renewed. My purpose and intention is renewed here. I remember why I'm here. And so I use that term homebound as a metaphor where we're all here for for a temporary period, and we all will return home to God one day. So to me, like I use that theme to that title to tie all my poems together, to kind of like convey the message that, you know, this life is temporary and all these feelings are fleeting, and it's all here for a reason, and that we learn lessons from it, and that, you know, these feelings are also not solitary. It's something that all of us feel, and it's universal. So basically all of us are homebound and we will return to God one day. So that was my thought process when I wanted to publish that book of poems. I've always been writing for myself, and it's like a personal experience. So why not just take the chance and share, you know, like with the world, and see maybe it might resonate with others as well.
Speaking about Homebound, if you have not seen the copy of that, or if you have not read, I think now is the best time to actually pick it up and read it.
Yeah, it's still available at Wardah Books.
Yeah, still available at Wardah Books. So please check it out, insyaAllah. I think you will find benefit in reading the book in the way how I greatly benefited it. As well. There was one time I was just standing in the train reading the book, and I wanted to cry, but I was just in public in front of everybody. So it's like, okay, maybe now it's not a good time to cry, so I just cry inside.
Question you.
Yes,
like, are you okay? What's wrong?
Which brings me to the most important question of today. I want to learn more about what fuels your creativity. Because I do believe that in this journey, you do need creativity in the way how you write your poetry, in the way how you choose the books that you want to read, you do reviews out of it.
I mean, to be honest, right now, I feel like I am trying my best to find time to fuel my creativity. Because, you know, I think that as you go on in life, like you're in different journey, different stages, there will be times where you have to kind of like take a step back and, you know, see whether what are your priorities. So right now, because I did mention that I published that back in 2019, and so I actually had plans to publish another book, but as you know, as I said, life goes on, and some priorities have to be realigned. So like right now, I have a family and I have a child, so sometimes I do have, you know, like thoughts like, will I get back to writing more things, you know, and actually actively focusing on my book? Because right now I really am struggling to find the time. But I think, you know, I just want to be honest and say that sometimes it's okay. Like I tell myself it's okay to take a step back and take it as a moment where this is your like time where you experience, and you will one day reflect on it and you will write on it. So I think for me, it's okay to have moments where you don't feel inspired or feel like you're creative enough, you know, because I feel like there are times when you need to just reflect, and there are times when you need to just feel and experience that before getting back to, you know, really being creative again. Yeah, so for me, I think as a new mother, it's also something that like it's something that's at the back burner. It's not something that I'm really prioritizing, but it's still there, which I think is, for me, it's important, because I feel like if you define yourself as a certain title, you know, like you're just, perhaps for example, like you're just a teacher or you're just a mother, I feel like I will lose that sense of self that makes me me. So like I think that sense of identity is also important to kind of like reflect on sometimes, because sometimes I feel that without doing all this creative, like, or pursuing my creative passion, you know, like I feel like I will lose a sense of my identity. So it's still there. It's just that it's not as actively, you know, I'm not as actively creating as how I used to be. But yeah, I do still like write here and there to kind of like continue exercising that muscle, creative muscle, you know, because it is a muscle. Like if you don't, you leave it dormant and you don't practice and you don't exercise it, you lose that. Yeah, so I don't want that for me. So I feel that it's important to, you know, here and there, whenever you feel that you have that bout of like sudden creative inspiration, I just jump on it and I try to write something, you know. So for me right now, it's just like random poems that I get inspired by, like a certain event or something that makes me feel very passionate about. Then I'll try to write something about it. It's not perfect, but I think it's something that I think I could offer to the world. Like, this is what I have and this is what I feel about it. So yeah, it's a way of me creating, and it's a way of me expressing myself not in a very polished way, like a whole book on its own, but here and there, bits and pieces of myself that I try to share with the world. Yeah. So I think ultimately, I feel that what fuels my creativity is, I think, for me at least, it's the yearning to actually make sense of something. You know, like sometimes like living this world, like a lot of things doesn't make sense, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like there's a lot of things that don't make sense to me. So I feel like writing is a way for me to like make sense of something. Yeah. So I'm sure you write. I mean, you write as well, right? Like Cesar, you write a lot of poems. I think recently you wrote a poem that you shared on IG, and like, how do you feel when you write poems so far? Like, I want to know as well.
Okay, so I think in the same way, I resonate greatly when you shared about making sense of something. But I think for mine, it is more inclined towards acknowledging what I'm feeling at that moment in time. Because sometimes when you feel something, when you have some thoughts going through your mind, like there will be days where it's difficult to really articulate all of that to somebody. Yeah. And I think when you pen down your thoughts, I think that is where it is useful.
Yes. So it's the same for me. Like, so when I write, it's actually a way of trying to make sense of the world that doesn't make sense, like to me. So do you feel like that sense of like you feel lighter when you write? Like you put your pen to paper or you put your finger to your iPhone notes, you know, like when you try to like, you know, put your feelings into words, you kind of like strangely like that sense of like heaviness or the burden that you feel in you is translated into paper, and you feel that, hey, actually it makes some sense right now because it's like a cathartic experience. So I think I'm sure there's like some research that has gone through this that shows you that, because it's something that a lot of writers feel as well. So to me, that is one of the reasons why I continue to write and create, because it's this yearning of wanting to make sense of something, you know, like, and also in that pursuit of making sense of something, I feel that when you share it with others, there's this desire to connect with others. Like I said earlier about how this author that I stumbled upon, his book, like it resonated with me, his words. So, and then, you know, I feel that when writers write, it's really about, I feel that it's about connecting with the world and knowing that you're not alone in this journey, that you're not alone in your grieving, you're not alone in your sadness, and that your experience is not singular, your experience is very much universal, and everyone feels what you feel, and so it's okay, and you know that you're not alone in this. Basically, that's how I feel like. So that's the reason I feel that drives me towards creating, and the reason why I don't stop writing is because I really do want to continue to make sense of things in this world and try to connect with other souls that feel the same way as I do. And I came across this quote or something I saw online. I forgot who said it, but it goes something like, why bother? Basically, why bother creating or why bother writing? Because there is someone out there right now who has a wound in the shape of your words. So that when I came across that quote, it really resonated with me, and it just struck a chord in me, and it makes me think that, hey, you know, it's all my feelings of doubt and like, you know, this so-called imposter syndrome. Like, why am I doubting myself? What's stopping me from sharing what I need to say, and what's stopping me from sharing my voice? So yeah, it's something that I reflect upon occasionally, and that kind of drives me towards not stopping myself from creating.
Beautiful. You actually walked us through not just the process of, you know, getting inspiration and constantly fueling your creativity. I also acknowledge, you know, the part where you mentioned about trying to make sense of the world, trying to figure things out, trying to connect with people. And I think that really is a big part of what our religion teaches us as well. Because at the end of the day, yes, we will be accountable for our own deeds. But this journey that we are in, it requires great support from the people around us and constantly looking out for each other. So I also do acknowledge that a big part of your writings also revolve around faith, especially when we take a look at your writings in Homebound as well. We see a lot of that. So, which brings me to the next question. I do want to know what continues to fuel your spirituality in your day-to-day, especially that you are now a mother, and on top of that, you have many other roles and responsibilities at hand. What keeps you going? What fuels your spirituality? And how have you still been connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
For me, it's this sense of knowing that this life is not forever, like the temporality of this life, the transience of this life. And I see it as like, I think it has like this particular event in my life, which happened, which totally gave me this, I call it like the Akhirah focus glasses. So this, I think when you read my book Homebound, you'll know that I wrote it in dedication to my mom, to my late mom. So so I think that event, that the loss of my mom actually was like the biggest, I would say, motivation for me to continue being better every day. Yeah, I think it's the biggest fuel for me personally. I think everyone can relate to this, where you lose someone, and losing someone always is the biggest reminder, like death is the biggest reminder that this life is temporary, that, like you shouldn't sweat the small stuff, and you should keep on, chasing after doing good and, like doing what you want to do in this life, that do things that please Allah. And so I feel that for me, it's the loss of my loved one, and it's also like, knowing that this life is really, it's just temporary. And if you don't do all the things you want to do in this life, you don't chase after your passion, and then it's just gonna be something that you'll regret in the future. So for me, what fuels my spirituality is really the sense of like, I'm not guaranteed whether I'll be alive tomorrow. You never know when you're gonna leave this world. So that sense of transience, temporary fleetingness of this life drives me towards trying to strive to be better every day. If you think that this life is everything, then you'll never actually want to chase after. You'll never want to nourish your spiritual self. Like,
it's like you're created
really,
to sleep.
if you're just chasing after worldly possessions, just material in this world, then there's no meaning to it. I feel like, in this world of distraction and this world of capitalism and everything, it's like nourishing your spiritual self it's not only comforting to you, but I think it's very essential to your well-being. Yeah, I feel like if you just focus on your physical self, you just focus on like, acquiring this and that materially, and you neglect your spiritual self, it's really, you're not taking care of yourself. Like your well-being, holistic well-being is not being taken care of, because I think spiritual self, like that, your spiritual self is really, it's like the crux of like, or the main thing that makes you. So I feel that so like, trying to be better each day, striving to be better every day, because the fact that you will leave one day is like the biggest motivation for me. That I always remind myself is to leave a legacy that it doesn't have to be big. Like, I mean, you don't have to like make a name and carve your name out in the stars or whatever it is, but it's more like the little things that you do that is purposeful and it impacts others. And it could be as small as like in your family, like when you raise your child, that's your legacy. When you write a book, that's your legacy. So like the little things that you do that will leave behind, that you will leave behind and make an impact in other people's lives, knowing that you will not live here forever, is what drives me towards nourishing and nurturing my spirituality. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I think the creative fuel that you mentioned earlier speaks a lot about making sense of things, but I think it ties in really well with what fuels your spirituality, about the remembrance of death, about the remembrance of the nature of this life, how this life is fleeting, and as you have went through a big loss in your life, while nothing can replace that, but I really believe that as you continue to live your years, you have gained so much from that experience as well. I know the whole time you were talking, I was just thinking if I should ask you this question or not.
That's okay,
But I'll just ask, what is it like now that you are a mother? And has this motherhood experience thus far reflect a lot of your own late mother? Like when you do certain things, when you sacrifice, when you don't get enough sleep, when you do so much for your child, does that really bring you back to remembering your mom?
I've never really had the time to sit and think because every day is just like a hustle. But yeah, now that I have this time to think, I think it kind of brings that. Yeah, it really is. Like I think being a mother makes you appreciate your mother even more. Yeah, because then you will know all the sacrifices that your mom makes for you. When you go on your daily life, you don't think about it.
Definitely.
Now when you're like reflecting, the tears just flow.
Because I recently read you won't really understand about marriage until you get married. You won't understand motherhood until you become a mother. So it was just something that I read recently that I think I brought it with me today in our conversation.
Yeah, but it's really true, man. It's like, it's so true because like recently I've been cooking recipes that my mom used to cook just because I missed that dish that she made, like traditional desserts that I've never actually bothered about. But now I'm like, I'm trying out all these recipes and it brought to mind, like, it reminds me of her and it gives me that sense of contentment that, even though she's not around, she still lives on in these recipes. She still lives on in this, in the mannerisms that I pick up from her. Like, and so it makes me happy to kind of like, because when you grow up, you observe what your mom does, in the kitchen and in what she does. So like to have that opportunity the privilege to actually be your mother and serve your family is like, how do I say this? It's really, it gives you that sense of peace and contentment that you never actually thought you needed, like, yeah. So it's just amazing, like this experience, even from the start of you being a mother where you are giving birth, or even before that when you're like going through pregnancy, right? It's just amazing, like how much you don't know about your mother until you go through that. Like you never really, like, I've never really wanted so much to talk to my mom because until I went through pregnancy, because I really wanted to know how did she go through all this hardship without us ever knowing, like moms are so good at concealing what they feel or how they, like, they're just super women, really. I don't know how she went through 3 pregnancies, without taking epidural, all these things. And I really wanted to have that conversation with her, like, how do you mother? How do you mother? Like, I can't do this on my own. So, like, I think it's really a privilege to have and an honor to be a mother because you get this chance to actually serve your family. And last time when you're kids and you're just like, you don't know what your mom does, like you think that they're just cleaning the house all the time. But actually it's so much barakah in everything that they do, that the reason your house is so clean and so neat and there's always food on the table is really because of your mother, like it's like everything is so, like a family is perfect, or the family is that way because of the mother. Like I always feel that I only realize it until she's gone. So I think that it's being a mother just puts me in her shoes right now, and I can totally relate, like, to everything, that why she does these things and or why she does certain things, and I can totally understand. Like, I think everyone will totally agree with me if they're with your mothers, and they can totally, like, suddenly you realize, like, oh my god, you sound like your mom. Like when you scold your child, you're like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm my own mom now. But it's really true, because it's like that's how it is. Like, moms are a part of you and you're a part of your mom. It's gonna be you're naturally gonna be growing up and taking some of her traits. So I think for me it's been both really nice to actually go through the whole journey of motherhood, although it's been really kind of like challenging, because I feel like I don't have the opportunity to ask her things or get some help from her. I mean, occasionally I would think that way, but I always have to get myself back on track and ask myself, there's a reason Allah put you through this, like there's a reason why I'm going through this journey. This journey is mine. Other people might be different. Their challenges are different. So for me, this is my test, this is my journey. So what is it that He's trying to teach me, So I think, as you go on, you do what your mom used to do, and you realize that, okay, maybe this is what He's teaching me. He's teaching me to go through like motherhood without like that extra help or pair of hands. It's really like teaching that you can do it, with His help. Allah is your only, the only one that you should rely on. You shouldn't depend on other people. So it's something that really teaches me, independence as a mother, and to continue to leave her legacy of, like even the little things like cooking for your family. It's a legacy of your mom, because it's something that passed down to you. She passed her recipes to you, so you continue doing that. And it's a way of like reliving her memory. And also it kind of like gives you this really, really peaceful like contentment of just, like last time you used to have different, previously maybe when you're a teenager, or you're like earlier, like when you're younger, you have a certain notion of what happiness is, or what brings you happiness, right? Like, but when you're a mother now, you're like, okay, even the littlest things like cooking for your family, or taking care of your child's needs makes you happy. Because I remember like last time when I asked my mom, like, what makes you happy? And I still remember, and she said that just seeing you eat my food, like seeing you eat what I cook, is enough to make her happy. And it's exactly what I feel right now when I see my child eat what I cook. So it's like, oh, this really makes me happy. Like I want to cook more. I want to make my family more like happy, every day. So it's like in the little things that you do that is kind of like, it reminds you of her, but at the same time it makes you, it makes you kind of like wistful, or like yearning to have her with you, but at the same time it makes you happy that she leaves behind this legacy, and you are living her legacy, and that you shouldn't feel alone, because and knowing that there are other people who are like me as well, and so I think that motherhood really changes my perspective of what mothers do, like beyond just cooking and cleaning. They have lots of emotional, like emotional load, like mental load. Everything is just full on, like you have to be present every time. And there's so many demands of a mother, especially no matter you're a stay-home or a working mother. It's like, it's a lot. So I feel that, like reflecting on it, I think you'll never know, like what you said, right? It's like you never know what motherhood is until you are a mother yourself, Yeah, so I think it's an experience that you have to go through, that to understand exactly how it feels. It makes you think, like, how they say like a mother's love, and how mothers are so, like, they love you so much, but how Allah's love for you is so much greater. It makes you like really humbles you and grounds you to the fact that if I could love my mother so much, my mother could love me so much. Like, what more Allah, right? And I thought about it when I was on my hospital bed when I was about to deliver. And like, it just floors me, like how much I didn't think about how Allah loves me. I always think about how is He pleased with me. Like, I always think that He thinks He doesn't really, He has a negative view of me. Like, I always feel like, am I doing this right? I'm always waiting for His punishment. But actually, when you think about it, it's like He loves you so much. He blesses you with so much. You just have to open your eyes and count His blessings and be grateful for what He has given you. And then you realize that, He really does truly love you, and He truly does want paradise for you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for sharing about what fuels your creativity, your spirituality, for answering this bonus question that I did not plan to ask in the first place.
She managed.
But I do have two more things, insyaAllah, to ask.
Okay.
One would be, is there like a quote, a Quranic verse, a hadith, or literally anything that you hold on to that is really useful for you as you set through life?
For me, the Quran verse from Surah Ma'idah, verse 35, where Allah says that be mindful of Allah, and be mindful of Allah, seek ways to get near to Him, and struggle in His way so that you may be successful. So I think that verse encompasses like how, having the knowledge that Allah is there, the presence of Allah, being mindful that Allah is always there, and then helps you in, finding ways to seek a better relationship with Allah. Because if you're not mindful of His presence, you're not aware that Allah is there, then you wouldn't want to get closer to Him, right? If you don't know Him, you wouldn't want to get closer to Him. So I think being mindful and then seeking ways, so it could be any ways that, like, for example, like when we talk about creativity, like it could be through your writing, it could be through your illustrating, it could be through your baking, whatever it is that you do that reminds you of Allah. Okay, it could be an ibadah and on its own. So I think when you seek ways to get near to Him, then it will not be easy because there will always be struggles. So I think you will always continue to struggle in His way, but that is what will bring you to success. So you struggle in His way so that you may be successful, so that definition of success is also kind of like, it's not what society constructs it to be. Like, it's not about being rich and having the biggest house and having all this gold, but it's more of like closeness to Allah, the relationship that you're trying to forge, trying to better and deepen with Allah, and then doing things that with Allah in mind. Allah is the center of your everything that you do. Then I think that is, and you're content with it, you feel that peace that you want in your life, like you don't need much to live. I think that is the definition of success for me, and I think it's something that resonates with me.
Last question for today before we wrap up our episode, insyaAllah, is to get you to share a message to the listeners. So if there's anything that you'd want to see, anything that you want to share, if you can just share one message, what would that be?
Read the world around you. Like, it's important to read everything that you see, even online, especially now, like with media literacy. And I think a lot of people who are ignorant or have like that sense of like, they're just ignorant about things, is because they don't read. So I think that reading helps to open your mind, and reading is a revolution, and reading is a way to resist all the negativity and the misinformation. So I think my message is to continue to read. As like I said, like it doesn't have to be something that is so complex, or you don't have to pick books that I read, or you don't have to pick books that she reads. It can be anything that interests you, and from there to also slowly widen your reading repertoire, because it's not just enough to kind of read just one thing. Like, you have to also widen as you read more, you widen your knowledge and you know more. And when you know more, it humbles you even more, because you realize that there's so much out there that you don't know. So I think that's important. Like, I think if every one of us reads and understand, like, this world doesn't revolve around us, and there's a lot of this world, a lot of knowledge that we don't know, then I think the world will be a better place.
Beautiful. Towards more humble citizens of the earth, insyaAllah. So we have come to the end of today's episode. So thank you so much, Humairah, for sharing all that you have shared, for every tear shed, for every laughter.
Every tear shared.
Alhamdulillah. I'm really sure that our listeners will be benefiting from all that which you have poured on this episode. Inshallah, I will, wrap up today's episode. To remind everybody that, of course, all that is good comes from Allah. And, I really hope that you will continue to listen to the episodes and find benefit from it, inshallah. So take care, everyone. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm not sure of the trends, but I just know that.
Yeah. Point is.
Free Palestine till it's backwards.